Hi. So the Excel file that I'm using for this loan repayment exercise is linked in the description below. So I urge you to open that file and do the calculations that I'm doing so that you can follow along better. Okay, so the file contains two worksheets, instructions and questions, and Ravi's repayment schedule. So this is for the calculations, and we'll make several copies of this second worksheet as needed to answer questions. So let's start by reading the instructions. Ravi is buying a new car that is priced at $22,000. He has $3,000 cash to put down as a down payment, but the rest he'll finance with a car loan. So the amount that he's financing seems will be $22,000 minus the $3,000 cash down payment. So $19,000 is what he'll be financing with a car loan. Now, in addition to the car price, he must pay at the dealer a car sales tax equal to $1,090, a title fee of $90, and a license plate and car registration fee of $270. His lender is letting him include these fees into the amount borrowed. So, in addition to the amount he's borrowing for the purchase price of the car, he's also borrowing the amount to pay these various fees. Okay, his bank will charge him an annual interest rate, also called APR, of 9%, starting 30 days from the day he gets his loan and at the end of every month thereafter. So every 30 days, the bank will calculate his outstanding loan balance. So how will the bank calculate his outstanding loan balance every 30 days? It'll do so by taking the last month's balance and adding to it the interest charge he has accumulated that month while subtracting any payments made. That makes sense, right? How do you calculate the current month's loan balance? You start with the previous month's loan balance, add to it any interest charge that has been accumulated, as well as you give them credit for the payments made. So you subtract the payments, okay, and then you have the current month's loan balance. Pretty straightforward and intuitive. Now, how is the interest charge calculated? Well, as we read along, it says the interest charge each month is calculated by multiplying the previous month's loan balance by the monthly interest rate. Now, what's the monthly interest rate? We've been given the annual interest rate, but what's the monthly interest rate? Well, it says, okay, the monthly interest rate, which is the yearly interest rate divided by 12. So pretty straightforward. We take this 9% value and divide it by 12, and we get the monthly interest rate. Okay, so what are our tasks? In the worksheet, Ravi's repayment schedule, enter the value of Ravi's APR in the green shaded cell. Okay, that sounds easy. Let's go to the worksheet Ravi's repayment schedule, find the green shaded cell that asks us to enter the APR and enter the APR. It has been pre-formatted as a percentage cell, so I type in 9 and it converts it into a 9%, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so that part is done. Let's go back to the instructions and answer the questions below. Okay, so there seem to be a lot of questions and they seem to be grouped according to scenarios. Show your calculations by filling out the blue shaded cells in the table in Ravi's repayment schedule by entering or copying the appropriate formulas. So it seems that we need to show our calculations by filling out these blue shaded cells in the table by entering the appropriate formulas. Okay. Every time you need to redo calculations with new values, create a copy of Ravi's repayment schedule, rename it with the corresponding scenario number, and perform the calculations with new values. So we would need to create copies of this Ravi's repayment schedule to redo calculations with new numbers. That way I can see all your work and calculations and then enter your answers in the blue shaded cells below. So this is where we'll enter our final answers. Okay, so let us start. What is the amount that Ravi is borrowing? Okay, that's easy. We need to perform several calculations to arrive at this number. So we can perform those by entering it as a formula. So I'm going to Start with an equal to value. Okay, so what calculations do we need to perform? We'll start with the purchase price of the car, which is $22,000. And we subtract from it the amount that he's paying cash since it's not going to be borrowed. So minus 3,000, but then he's paying for the various fees through borrowed money. So we need to add that to the amount borrowed. So that is 1090 for the sales tax plus $90 for the title fee plus 270 for the license plates and registration. So we add that to the borrowed amount. Check the formula one more time, and then once we're happy, we press enter and it calculates the amount that Ravi is borrowing, equal to $20,450. Okay, that sounds good. Scenario 1. Suppose Ravi makes $350 monthly payments until the loan is paid off. Okay, how long before he pays off the loan? What will be the amount of his final payment? And what is the total amount of interest charges he would have paid? So to calculate all this answers, we will go to the Ravi's repayment schedule worksheet and start filling out the blue shaded cell with formulas. Okay, so let's start with the first row. So it seems the table contains column regarding the month numbers. So month 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. The interest charge in that month, the payment made by Ravi in that month. In the first scenario, we are told that it's going to be $350 every month. Okay, so we'll fill these cells up with $350 value, and then the loan balance each month. So let's start with month 0. Now, what is month 0? Month 0 is today. Okay, it is the day that he is signing the loan papers and getting the proceeds of the loan. Okay, so what is going to be the loan balance today, the day he is getting the loan? Well, it's the amount that has borrowed, because it's not going to include interest charges, because on the very first day of the loan, he hasn't accumulated any interest charges or made any payments. So the loan balance will be simply the amount that he borrowed, which we calculated as $20,450. Let's make this a currency format. Okay, and let's expand it to include that 20, 40, 50. Okay, so 20, 40, 50, that's the amount he's borrowing. Okay, now in the first month, what is his interest charge going to be? So remember, the instruction says that interest charges each month is calculated by multiplying the previous month's loan balance by the monthly interest rate, which is the yearly interest rate divided by 12. So we take the previous month's loan balance. So I'm going to enter a formula for calculating the interest charges as equal to, you take the previous month's loan balance, and I'm going to enter the previous month's loan balance by referring to the cell that contains the previous month's loan balance, which is cell D2. And I can enter D2 by simply clicking on D2. And then I'll multiply it by the monthly interest rate. Now, the monthly interest rate is going to be an expression. It's going to be the annual interest rate divided by 12, right? So what is the annual interest rate? Well, 9%. And I'm going to enter that by referring to the cell that contains the annual interest rate, okay, which is cell G1. And I'm going to divide that by 12. So the expression in the parentheses here is the monthly interest rate. So the formula for calculating the interest is the previous month's loan balance, which is contained in cell D2, multiplied by the monthly interest rate, which is contained in this parenthesis. So I press enter and it calculates my first month's interest charge as $153.38. Okay, good. Now, what is the payment that he's making the first month? Well, we are told that he's making a payment every month of $350, so it's going to be $350. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to enter the value $350 in this green cell okay, corresponding to the fixed monthly payment. And then in the payment column, I'm going to simply refer to this cell. So I'm going to say equal to $350 and press enter, and it enters the amount automatically. Okay, now what is going to be my loan balance at the end of the first month? Well, the instructions say that you calculate the loan balance by taking the previous month's loan balance and adding to it the interest charge is accumulated that month, that is in the first month, the current month, while subtracting any payments made. Okay, so let's enter that as a formula. You start with the previous month's loan balance, which in my case is D2, which I enter by simply clicking on D2 and then adding to it the cell that contains the interest charges this month, which is cell B3, and I added that by clicking on B3 and then subtracting from it the payment that he has made, and so that is in the cell C3. So I entered this formula D2 plus B3 minus C3. Okay, and I check once more if it's correct, and it looks good, so I press enter. So my loan balance in the first month is going to be $20,000, 253 and 38 cents. Okay, now my interest charges for the second month will be calculated using the same kind of formula, which is to take the previous month's loan balance and multiply it by the monthly interest rate. So instead of re-entering it, I can copy the formula from the first month. Okay, I can copy it in the cells for all months. But before I do that, I need to make a small change. So this reference to cell G1, okay, I want to make it an absolute reference because when I copy the formula, I still want this part of the formula to be equal to G1. I don't want it to change according to the month. Okay, so I'll make it an absolute reference by, on my Mac, I select G1 and then I press the function key and the F4 key at the same time, and it makes it an absolute reference by inserting these dollar signs before the column label and the row label. And if you are having trouble, okay, doing that by the shortcut keys, you can simply type in these dollar signs in the formula, and that will work too. Okay, okay, so I press enter. And now this formula is ready to be copied, and I'm going to copy it for all months that I have room for. So let's keep scrolling. Okay, copy, 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 all the way down. Okay, so we have room until month 80. Okay, and so I release my mouse click here and it copies the formula. Now don't worry that it says 0 because the formula is referring to cells, okay, that are empty. So, of course, the output will be 0, but that will no longer be the case once we populate those other cells. Okay, now the cells in the payment column will also be equal to 350. Okay, so I can copy the first month's payment value all the way through. But before I do that, I want to again turn this into an absolute reference because I always wanted to refer to cell G3 and not change according to, okay, what cell I'm copying it to. So I'm going to do that by selecting G2, and on my Mac, I press the function key and the F4 key at the same time. On Windows, you would simply press the function key. I'm sorry, you simply press the F4 key, and if that's not working, you can type in the dollar signs. And as long as you get this, you're good. And now I'm ready to copy the formula from the first cell all the way down to month 80. Okay, now what about the loan balance? Okay, once again, the formula remains the same. You take the previous month's loan balance, add the interest charge, subtract the payment. So that I can copy, and there is no value here that I want it to be an absolute reference because there is no one cell that I want it want it to remain fixed when I copy the formulas. So no changes needed here. I simply copy it all the way down. Okay, now let's look at how the loan balance is changing. So it's going down as Ravi makes these $350 payments. Okay, the interest he's charged every month also seems to be going down as his loan balance goes down every month. Okay, so it seems the last month for which his loan balance is positive is month 77, after which it turns negative. Now, in practice, you would never have a loan balance that would turn negative. A loan balance that is negative means that you are lending money to the bank, which is not what you do with a loan. It's the bank that lends your money. So actually, once your loan balance turns zero, then that loan ends, and then there is no more need to do these calculations. Okay, so it seems that the loan balance would turn negative in month 78. Okay, that would be when his last payment would be made. Okay, so how long will it take him to pay off the loan? 78 months. So we can put that answer here. 78 months, or 6 years and 6 months. That's how long it's going to take him to pay off the loan if he's making a monthly payment of $350. What will be the amount of his final payment? Now you might say, well, isn't he making a payment of $350 every month? So shouldn't that be his final payment? But here's the thing. In the last month, if he pays $350, then he would be overpaying. Okay, because that last payment would make his loan balance turn negative, which is not something we want. We want the loan balance to be zero. We don't want it to be negative. We don't want to lend the bank the money. Okay, so the last payment of 350 would be an overpayment. So the question is, what amount of payment in the last month would bring his loan balance exactly equal to zero? So let's think about this. First, let's delete this number. Okay. In the last month, he must pay off the previous month's balance, okay, plus any interest he has accumulated in the current month. And as long as he pays an amount that covers these two figures, then he would have paid off the loan. So what amount would cover these two figures? Well, let's calculate. So the last month's balance was $60.14, and this month's interest rate is 45 cents. And as long as he makes a payment equal to the sum of these two numbers, he would pay off his loan and his loan balance would be zero. And then, okay, we don't need to have a relationship with the bank with the rest of the months, and it'll be zero. No payments, no balances, okay, no interest, nothing. So a final payment of $60.60 would pay off his loan exactly and bring his loan balance to zero. So we can enter that. $60.60 would be his final payment. Okay, what is the total amount of interest charges he would have paid? Okay, so this column contains the interest charges that he is charged every month. And so if we were to add up the values in this entire column, we would get the total amount of interest charges that he would have paid. And we can add that up in this total cell over here, and we can enter a formula that adds up the value of all the cells in this column. Okay, the sum formula, and there is a quick way to do that, and that is to use the auto sum shortcut. So you double click on the cell where you want to enter the sum, okay, and then you say auto sum. I didn't like that, so I guess you have to do a single click, not a double click. So you do a single click on the cell and then you say auto sum, and it automatically generates the formula that would add up all the values of the cell in that particular column. Okay, And you check one more time to make sure it's including all the cells, not, leaving someone out. It looks good, 83, B83 to B82, and you enter, and it gives you the sum of all the interest that he has been charged over the length of this loan to be equal to $6,560.60. So let me enter that. Let me copy this figure, copy, and then I enter that here. I paste. Okay, now it's giving me an error because when you copy a cell containing a formula, it copies the formulas. But I don't want to copy the formula. I want to copy the value only. So when I copy and it gives me this error, it also gives me this little, drop down menu. And from that, I choose values only. And it then would enter the value only and not the formula. And I want to make it $1. Okay, so this is the interest you would have paid. Okay, scenario 2. Suppose Ravi is paying $350 a month. In month 10, he uses part of the holiday bonus he receives to make a total payment of $1,000. So instead of his usual $350, in month 10, he pays $1,000. He continues to pay $350 in the subsequent months. How much sooner does he pay off his loan compared to scenario 1? How much does he save in interest charges compared to scenario 1? Okay, so let's redo the calculations, but we're going to redo the calculations in a new worksheet. So we are going to right click on the label for Ravi's repayment schedule, choose move or copy, and say I want to create a copy of Ravi's repayment schedule, create a copy. Okay, it creates a copy and labels it Ravi's repayment schedule 2 automatically, and that works fine for me because this is scenario 2 that I'm going to do calculations for. Okay, so what's going to be different this time? The payment in month 10 is going to be $1,000 instead of $350. Okay, so let's go and make that change. Okay, so in month 10, in the new worksheet, make sure we're changing figures in the new worksheet and not the previous worksheet. Month 10, okay, I'm just going to make this $1,000. Okay, now since, all these cells are linked to each other by formula, once I change this, it recalculates the loan balance and the next one's interest change and so forth. So all the values of these subsequent cells are going to be recalculated, except for the payment cells, which he continues to make $350 payments. But let's see when his loan balance reaches 0. So if we look down, it seems that the last month when his loan balance was positive was month 74. Okay, so his loan balance would reach 0 in month 75. Okay, so we can enter that answer. How much sooner does he pay off his loan compared to scenario 1? Well, he paid off his loan in scenario 1 in 78 months. So here he's paying off in 75 months. So he's paying off 3 months sooner. And I can simply say 3 months because the question already says how much sooner. Okay. Now, we want to make sure that over here we calculate his final payment correctly. Okay, in the 75th month, to pay $350 would be an overpayment, okay, because that would take his loan balance negative. We never want our loan balance to be negative. We want it to go to 0. So what payment in the final month would take his loan balance to 0? Well, that would be the amount that would pay off his previous month's balance plus any interest he accumulates this month. So what would that value be? Well, let's calculate it. So we add the previous month's balance to the interest rate, and that amount is $45.02, and that brings his loan balance to 0. After that, we don't need to have any relationship with the bank. We don't need to talk to them. Our loan balance is 0. Thank you. See you later. Okay. And so his last payment would be $45.02. And so the interest charges have been recalculated too. It's now 6145.02. Okay, so let's copy this value. Okay, and go back over here. So how much does he save in interest charges? So what were his interest charges in scenario one? So we enter the formula that includes that, and then we copy. Okay, I copied by clicking on, by pressing Control V, but if it doesn't work for you, you can type in this number 614502, enter, and he saves $415.58. Okay, scenario 3. Suppose Ravi is paying $350 per month until in month 10 he inherits $100,000 from his grandma. He decides to use some of it to pay off his loan entirely. What amount would he need to make, or to what amount payment would he need to make at the end of month 10 to pay off his loan entirely? And how much less would he pay in total interest charges compared to scenario 1? Okay, so to redo the calculations, let's go back to the Ravi's original repayment schedule worksheet, create a copy of it. Okay, it automatically renames it as Ravi's repayment schedule 3. There's this extra parenthesis that I'm going to delete. Okay, so we want him to make a payment in month 10 so that his balance at the end of month 10 is 0. So what would that amount be? Well, what would he need to pay off his loan entirely in month 10? Well, he would need to pay off what he owes at the end of month 9 plus any interest charge he accumulates in month 10. So we entered a formula to calculate that. So we enter the cell that contains the loan balance at the end of the previous month and add to it the amount that he will need to pay off the interest charge he's accumulated this month. Okay, so D11 plus B12, press enter, and as you can see, that exactly leads to his loan balance at the end of month 10 to equal 0. And then he won't need to deal with his bank anymore, no need to make any more payments. We can delete that. Okay, so the amount that he would need to pay at the end of month 10 to pay off his loan is 18,766. I'm going to copy this amount to paste it in the answers. Okay, and I'm going to paste it, and it pays the value, and I want to make it a currency. Okay, so it looks good. How much less would he pay in total interest charges compared to scenario 1? So we calculate the difference. So we take the interest charges in from scenario 1. So I click enter, interest charges in scenario 1, and subtract from it the interest charges in scenario 3, which are going to be given here. Okay. Okay, I didn't like that. It didn't calculate it properly. Okay, so I'm just going to memorize this and type in there $1,466.04. Okay, he says $5,094.56. Okay, I took the interest charges in scenario 1 and subtracted from it the interest charges that he paid in scenario 3, and that's how I got that answer. Okay, feel free to pause and go back to scenario 4. Suppose it is the first day of the loan. Ravi can choose any fixed monthly payment amount. How long will it take for Ravi to pay off his loan if he chooses to pay $140 monthly? Okay, so in order to answer this question, let's create another worksheet. I am going to say move or copy, choose the original schedule, create a copy, enter, and it creates a new worksheet for me, but it doesn't name it appropriately. So I'm going to correct the name, Ravi's repayment schedule 4, bring it to the right. Okay. So what happens if he chooses to pay $140 monthly? Well, let's redo the calculation by changing the value in this cell from 350 to 140. Okay. Okay, so all the payment cells have been converted to 140. So how long does it take for him to pay off the loan? Well, do you notice a strange thing happening? The loan balance is growing every month. Instead of going down, it's going up. Now, why is this happening? So you have to remember that the loan balance is being affected by two opposing forces. The first force is the interest charge that tends to increase loan balance every month. And the second force is the payment that you make, which tends to decrease the loan balance every month. Now, as you can see in this case, the force that is increasing the loan balance, the interest charge, is greater than the force that is decreasing the loan balance, which is the payment. So it's no wonder that the loan balance is going up rather than going down, right? So as long as the payment that Ravi is making is below the interest charge in his first month, his loan balance is going to grow, and it's going to be the same case for subsequent months as well. Okay, so paying $140 a month means that his loan balance is going to grow and he's never going to pay off the loan. Okay, at the end of month 77, okay, he owes 21,836, which is more than what he started off with. So the answer to this question is that he would never be able to pay off his loan because his loan balances would grow every month because his payments are not enough to cover his interest charges every month, let alone pay off his principal. Okay, so that didn't fit in there. I can merge these cells, wrap text. Okay, merge it here as well. What is the smallest amount he can choose that will not cause his balance to grow? Okay, so let's examine this schedule. So as long as Ravi is paying at least, okay, what his interest charges for the first month, then his loan balance won't grow. If he pays more than the interest charge, then that's great. His loan balance would go down. If he pays less than the interest charge, then his loan balance would go up. Okay, but if he pays at least the interest charge, then the force that is causing his loan balance to go up will be equal to the force that causes the loan balance to go down, and it'll stay the same. Okay, so in the first month, okay, as long as he makes a payment that is equal to his interest charge, his loan balance won't go up. So okay, as long as his payment is equal to his interest charge, you can see that the loan payment is not going to change between month 0 and 0 and the first month. Okay, so if you make the fixed payment amount equal to his interest charge, okay, his loan balance doesn't grow, it remains the same. If the payment is more than the interest charge in the first month, then the loan balance will go down, as I said. Okay, but for it not to grow, he must at least pay the interest charge of the first month. So this is the smallest amount that he can pay per month, and his loan balance doesn't grow. So 153.38. Okay, scenario 5. Suppose it is the first day of the loan. Ravi must commit to paying it off in either 3 or 5 years. So the length term of the loan is up to him. It can be either 3 or it can be 5. What would his monthly payment be if he chooses to pay off the loan in 3 years? Well, let's figure that out. Ravi's repayment schedule, create a copy. Okay, let's name it 5, Ravi's repayment schedule 5. Okay, so basically we want to pick a fixed monthly payment, an amount that would cause his loans balance at the end of 3 years or 36 months, okay, to be 0. So we want this number to be 0. So in this cell is an output of a formula. So we want the output of this formula to be 0. Okay, and the fixed monthly payment is an input that goes into the formula. Well, not directly. It affects these numbers over here, and then these numbers ultimately affect, okay, the loan balance at the end of 36. So indirectly, this number over here affects this number. So the question is, what does this number over here, the fixed monthly payment, have to be so that in this cell over here, we have the value 0. Well, this is the kind of question for which we use goal seek, right, as we learned in class. So to invoke goal seek, I'm going to go to data, and I'm going to choose what if analysis. If you don't find goal seek in your Excel, use the help function to search for goal seek. Okay, goal seek. So I want to set the value of this cell, okay, the loan balance at the end of 36 months, 3 years, equal to 0. Okay, I want the output to be 0, and I want to tell Excel to achieve that by changing the value in this cell, the fixed monthly payment. Okay, and I press enter, and Excel calculates that that amount is going to be $650. So if Ravi were to pay $650 a month, then his balance at the end of 36 months would be 0. Okay, and so we can put that over here. $650. What would his monthly payment be if he chooses a 5-year term? Okay, so let's create a copy of this. Copy, and this time, okay, we are going to call it, instead of repayment schedule 6, we're going to call it 5.1 because it's the part of the same scenario, 5.1. It's just a, a sub question. Okay, so now in this case, we want the balance at the end of 5 years, so 60 months, to be 0. So we want this value to be 0, and we want to tell Excel to recalculate, okay, what the fixed monthly payment has to be. So what if analysis, goal seek, set the value of the loan balance at the end of 60 months equal to 0 by changing the input value, which is the fixed monthly payment, and I press enter, and Excel calculates it to be 425. Okay, so as long as Ravi makes a fixed monthly payment of $425, his loan will be paid off in 5 years. Well, put it in the wrong cell. Okay, which term length would enable him to have the lowest monthly payment? Well, if we compare the monthly payment amounts, obviously the 5-year loan would allow him to have the lowest monthly payment because his repayment is spread over more number of months. Which term length should he choose if his goal is to pay the least total interest? Well, let's look at the interest. Well, first we want to get rid of all these negative numbers because, you actually don't have negative balances at the bank. Okay, so we do the same for the other calculation as well. The months with the negative values, we get rid of them. Okay, so if the term loan is 5 years, 60 months, his loan balance is his interest charges are about $5,000. If he pays off his loan in 3 years, his interest is about $2,960 or $3,000. Obviously, if he pays off the loan in 3 years, he's going to incur less interest, okay, because he's going to have less amount of time for the interest charges to be accumulated, okay. So the answer is that 3-year loan. So the advantage of the 5-year loan is that the monthly payments are lower, but of the 3-year loan is that his interest charges are lower. Okay, so that ends this exercise. If you need to go over something again, you can rewind and pause and try to figure it out. You can also email me or insert a comment below to bring on any questions you might have. Bye.